What's up, Katie Baz, and welcome back to the channel. This week this is going to be a short and quick tutorial on how to adapt a basic sleeve into a peasant or puff sleeve as we commonly know it. If you want to see how this sleeve was made, make sure to keep on watching. I'm going to be starting off with a basic sleeve. This one I made in a previous tutorial. I'm going to link it on the screen and down below so you can check that out so you have a base pattern to work with. Now I'm going to be dividing the sleeve pattern into 4 because that's how many panels I want to have for my sleeve once I'm done slashing and spreading it. You can divide yours by more. I think 4 is like a good place to start. You can divide yours by 6, by 8, however much that you want to do. So I'm just going in here to connect the division point I've marked on the hemline to the ones on the sleeve head using my marker pen and my pattern master. Once I have those lines drawn, I'm actually going to be slashing along those lines. You guys know I am obsessed with the slash and spread method because it's such a great way to add volume to different parts of garments. Now I'm going to be spreading the patterns by 1.5 inches on top and at the bottom. This is the point where you really have the freedom to play around with the volume and the fullness of your sleeve. The more you spread your panels, the fuller your sleeve will be. And if you want the sleeve to be fuller on the bottom, you spread it more on the bottom and then you spread it a little bit less on the top, so it like flares out at the bottom and then the top is still spread. So you're adding volume on the top and on the bottom of your sleeve, so when you have everything gathered back together by stitch or with elastic or with a cuff, you have the beautiful like balloony shape that this sleeve typically has. Now I'm just going in here to spread and tape down all of my panels. I have taped them onto paper underneath, and I'm just going in here to connect the hemline because we've added some measurement in there. I'm also going to go ahead and connect the sleeve head, which is the top of the sleeve, using this curved end of my pattern master. You want to ensure that you have a smooth finished seam on this sleeve head, and then you want a straight line on the bottom. So once you cut out your pattern and you cut onto fabric, not forgetting to transfer your notches, you have a clean pattern that would not be confusing to work with. I've just got in here to add my grain line, and I'm writing my annotations on my pattern as well, so if I decide to use this pattern again in the future or give it to somebody else, they know exactly what they are working with. The base pattern already had seam allowance included, hence why I'm not adding seam allowance after spreading my panels. But if yours didn't have seam allowance, make sure to add that because that's how you'll be able to join all the pieces together. Now I am planning to gather the sleeve head into the armhole and then add an elastic on the hemline. You can add a cuff if you don't want an elastic band, but I definitely know I want to gather the sleeve head into the armhole of my garment. And I'm just going in here to use my pattern to cut onto my fabric, and I'm using cotton. Now I will say this sleeve drapes and falls differently depending on the fabric you use. I have gone ahead to sew with the longest stitch on the top of my sleeve so I can gather that top end, and this I have done with the loosest stitch on my machine. And once I pull on the threads, I am going to be able to sort of gather all that extra dimension that I added to the sleeve head. And I'm going to put right sides together and sew up the side seam, overlock that nicely, as well as overlock the hemline. And then I'm going to go to the hem of the sleeve and fold it upwards to create a tunnel wide enough for my elastic. My elastic band is about 1/2 inch wide, so I want my tunnel to just be a little bit wider than that, so I have enough room for the elastic to sit. Now I'm going to stitch around the entire hemline, leaving a little opening for me to pass my elastic band through. This I'm doing with the help of a safety pin. I found just pinning the other end to that side seam prevents the elastic from getting lost in the tunnel. So once I arrive at the other end, remove my safety pin, I'm able to join both ends of my elastic band and tuck that back into the tunnel of the sleeve hem. Yes, I'm just stitching up on my machine. I would recommend doing this with a zigzag stitch. It just ensures that it doesn't break as you wear the piece over time. And I'm just going back in here to sew the opening closed, the one I left open to allow me to pass my elastic band through the tunnel. Once I have the elastic tucked away, that I'm going to stitch up, and this is what the sleeve is looking like. Mine looks full enough, but if you want yours more dramatic, spread your panels by 2, 3, 4 inches, as much as you would like, as much as your fabric would accommodate. I'm going to pass my sleeve into the armhole of my top, putting right sides together, and I'm going to pin the side seam of my sleeve to the side seam of this top here that I'm joining the sleeve to, and I'm going to push all of the gathers to the sleeve head because I really want the gathering to be there, so it makes that part of the sleeve stand a little bit more. This I'm going to take to my machine, and I'm going to be sewing the sleeve into the armhole of the top. I'll do this for the left and for the right sleeve, so I have both sleeves for my top. Go ahead and finish this up either by overlocking or using a bias tape, however finishing technique you want to use. And this is what my sleeve looks like. As I mentioned earlier on, different fabrics drape differently. If you want something more flowy, I would recommend using a more flowy fabric like satin. If you want something even more firm, I would recommend using something like Duchess, so the sleeve really holds its shape well. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching this quick tutorial. Leave your recommendations for future projects down below, and we could possibly make that happen. And until next time, have a good morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are. Bye.